All right, so hips and shoulders. Last week we went pretty slowly. Oh, hang on a minute. I've not got my thing on right. Okay. Yeah, last week we went pretty slowly and I find that really uncomfortable. So after all that talk about leaning into and learning from discomfort, we're going to move a little bit faster. Yeah, I always think that when the sun comes out, it always makes me want to move a little bit more. So we're still going to focus on the shoulders and the hips, and we will take some deeper stretches, longer holds towards the end. But just essentially just bringing your focus back to how you respond, how you react to something that is maybe a little bit uncomfortable or a little bit challenging. So if you come up against a pose that you know you don't particularly enjoy, or say your balance is not really there, at that point, are you able to kind of notice your reaction? Are you able to kind of acknowledge the difficulty or the challenge, and then, you know, find a positive mindset maybe to keep working into it or working with it? Does it tend to put you immediately into like a, oh, this is awful, I'm terrible at this, kind of negative headspace? It might be very different depending on the nature of the challenge and just, you know, day by day. But just observing your reactions, physical as well as mental. Quite often we tend to tighten up and try and almost kind of pull ourselves away from discomfort. Whereas generally speaking, we want to try and find a place where we can still find a little bit of release. Yeah, so how do we respond? How do we react? And how can we consciously choose to work with, into, or if necessary, away from that discomfort? So straps will be to hand. Let's put them towards the back of your mat, actually, towards the back of your mat. And if you're okay to kneel, then I'm going to invite you to kneel. If that doesn't work for you, then find a different seat. Excuse me. So getting as comfortable as you can, allowing your hands to rest anywhere that feels appropriate, that feels kind of natural for you today. Closing your eyes and taking a little bit of time to sort of ground yourself on your mat, to open your practice. So almost to draw a line under whatever's come previously this morning or in the week that's been so far. Drawing a line under that so you can start your practice now with maybe some fresh energy, fresh focus. That making a commitment to yourself for the next 60 minutes to be attentive, to try and be a little bit disciplined, and to give this time to you. If it helps, bring a little bit of intention to each side of your breath. So using the inhale to invite energy, maybe some space, some lightness or brightness into the body. And the exhale to release tension, stress, unhelpful thoughts perhaps. See if it's possible to soften your shoulders, your chest, to release the weight of your pelvis a little bit more towards the heels, the feet, the floor. This might bring with it a slight sense of rounding of the spine, just a touch. So releasing some of that effort that sometimes makes us lift up so much through the spine or through the chest that the front of the rib cage starts to open and the low back starts to arch. So to let go of that effort, let go of that sense of lift. And pay attention to the sensations that you're feeling around the feet, the ankles, the legs. Are those sensations consistent? Are they changing? Do they feel like they are quite still? Is there a sense of movement? If the sensations aren't particularly strong, is it easier or is it more challenging to keep paying attention to them? If you can, keep your eyes closed. And you're going to just lift your hips away from your heels enough that you can tuck your toes under. If you're not sitting cross-legged, sorry, if you're not kneeling, sitting cross-legged, for example, maybe at this point you just change the cross of the legs. So give yourself time to settle into your new position. And if you're kneeling with the toes tucked under, if it's quite intense, hands either to the knees or thighs leaning forwards, or even hands to the floor in front of you, taking a little bit of weight out of the feet. And we want to find a place where it might be strong, but that we can release into it. We're not kind of holding breath or trying to lift ourselves out, that sense of kind of contracting or constricting around the chest. And trying to soften jaw, shoulders, chest, abdomen. Again, releasing the weight of the pelvis. With this slightly more intense sensation, maybe your breath starts to come into action a little bit more. Again, that sense of consciously letting go of tension or tightness with the out breath. Maybe you find the inhale is the most useful part for you. And of course, sometimes stronger sensation can make it much more difficult to focus on anything else. Are you able to change your focus to your breath? And if not, if that sensation is almost sort of overwhelming in terms of your focus, can you work with it? Does it feel like maybe reducing that intensity somewhat would be a useful place to start? And can you notice the quality of the sensations, where you're feeling them, maybe how they shift, change, move? Do those sensations feel like they are tied into any other parts of the body or sensations or experiences that you might be having? A tightening of the jaw or the shoulders, for example. When you feel ready, well done. Let's release the toes. Bringing the tops of the feet back down toward the mat, maybe just tapping them out lightly or wiggling the toes. Whatever you need to help release. And then finding all fours, just taking a little bit of time to move your spine, and that's cat-cow, whether it's circles. Just taking the attention essentially out of the feet, the ankles for a moment. Bringing a little bit more movement into the body. When you feel ready from that spinal noodling, you're going to press your way back. So tuck your toes under, make sure your feet are wide or as wide as you feel you might need. You're going to walk your way back, press your way back into a balasana, into a deep squat. So making as many adjustments as you need so you can find that squat position at the back of your mat. Again, if possible, we're inviting a sense of release through the pelvis. Depending on how you're feeling, you might be really focusing on that kind of the cultivation of a passive squat, or you might be working to keep it a little bit more engaged, a little more active, maybe rolling little toe edges of feet down, lifting chest. Whatever you prefer, whatever feels most appropriate for you today. Just a couple more breaths in your own time before you then make your way up to standing any way you like. Once you're up to standing, just finding a comfortable stance, taking a few shoulder rolls. And then we're going to add a couple of things into those shoulder rolls. So rolling the shoulders up and back. So take an inhale as the shoulders come up to the ears, and an exhale as the shoulders roll back and down, bending the knees as you do so. Inhale, straighten the legs, shoulders forwards and up. Exhale, bend the knees, shoulders back and down. Again, inhaling to straighten the legs, pushing down through the feet, shoulders are up and back. Exhale, bending the knees, shoulders down and forwards. Keep that going. And feel free to change the placement of the feet. Can the soles of the feet stay soft? Now we're going to add a little bit of rotation. So if you just pause with the knees bent and the shoulders down, you're going to roll the backs of the hands in towards one another. They don't necessarily have to touch. You might want to, doesn't really matter too much, but roll the backs of the hands in towards one another. Take a breath out to prepare. As you inhale, straighten the leg, shoulders come up. And as they go back, you're going to rotate the palms of the hands out. Exhale, bend the knees. Roll the shoulders down, forwards, back to the hands in. Inhale, straighten the legs, shoulders up, back. Turn the palms out. And again, exhale, back to the hands in. Inhale, roll the shoulders up, turn the palms out. So that little rotation happening as well. If that just feels not very helpful or like it's a bit confusing, don't worry too much about the rotation. But keep going with the shoulder rolls, with the breathing and the legs. And then when you're ready, just allow yourself to settle back into a comfortable stillness. Closing your eyes, just taking a moment. And then when you're ready, gently opening your eyes, you're going to grab your strap. We're just going to take a few dislocates, a few around the world. So you know already intensity level, up to you. Wider hands, slightly less intense, narrower, slightly more intense. Again, shrugging the shoulders up to the ears. Each time. A little sense of trying to keep this spine, the low back fairly neutral. If you want to go for a few round the world, again, you're going to try and keep the arms straight, but you're circling the strap all the way around, one way then the other. Again, trying to keep the spine and the torso fairly neutral. Oof. When you're ready, once again, just popping your strap down, stay towards the back of the mat. You're going to take it back down into your Malasana squat. So wide feet, sinking the hips down. Just give yourself maybe 30 seconds or a few rounds of breath, however you prefer to think about your timings. Before moving it into a child's pose. And settling into that child's pose, maybe creeping the fingertips a little bit further away from you. See if you can just wake up a little bit of an extra stretch through the triceps, the armpits, the lats. And then starting to shift the hips all the way forward so that you come into a little back bend. And then initiating with that push of the arms, so you can move back into your child's pose. So shifting forwards and backwards. And this can be quite a slow movement. You can make it quite dynamic. You could speed it up. And whatever you're kind of leaning towards in terms of how your body is feeling, what your energy levels are like, just what you like in a practice. Or in this particular practice. When you're ready, you'll start to make your way into a downward facing dog. As always, taking that time to allow your body to kind of open into the pose, ease into the pose, to identify maybe if there are any parts of the body that are feeling a little bit resistant. Or maybe you're holding on to 12 miles of walking. And from here, when you're ready, bringing it down to an all fours position. So finding your tabletop position. Then bringing the knees in together so you've got more of a tripod shape. We want to try and keep stability around the shoulders and around the low back to make sure the hands are pushing down into your mat. You're going to pick up your right leg and circle, move that right hip. So you might want to take maybe 3 or 4 circles one way, 3 or 4 circles the other. You might want to mix it up much more frequently. It doesn't matter too much. But just waking up warming up that right hip whilst trying to maintain some stability. Maintaining stability without adding extra tension. So making sure the jaw is relaxed, for example. Could you soften the palms of the hands? And when you're ready, stepping the right foot toward the top of your mat. Keeping the back knee down, you're going to sweep the arms high and then take a tricep stretch on the left side. So bend your left elbow, right hand catches hold, chin slightly away from chest. And then you're going to negotiate what's happening with the hips, where you want them to be, and then add in a little side bend. So you're using the right hand to help draw your body up and over towards the right hand side. And keep checking in with the pelvis. Releasing, taking the hands down to the top of the mat. You're going to sweep the right leg back into a three-legged dog. And then little bend in both knees, might be a big bend. Allow your left heel to rise. And again, you're going to circle that right hip. So once more, we're looking for that stability around the shoulders, make sure the arms are strong, hands pushing towards the top of the mat. We're trying to maintain that sense of just melting the front ribs, the low ribs back into the body. We're not allowing the bum to stick up and for us to take that strain in the low back. Before putting the right foot down, downward facing dog, and taking a nice, slow, nice, maybe not being the right word, but waving vinyasa. So lifting the heels, chin to your chest, trying to roll forward through the spine. Take your time, try and be attentive to that articulation. As you come through that high plank position, the hips melt down, the chest floats up, the arms are strong. At that point, chin moves away from the chest to look forward. Depending on what you're after, maybe you'll try and roll it back, chin to chest, into your downward facing dog. Maybe you'll just kind of make your own way back into a down dog or a child's pose for something a little bit less active. But once you're back into your down dog, lowering the knees towards the mat, again, resetting that tabletop or that tripod position, knees in nice and close, finding some stability, keeping the back of the neck long, and then picking up your left leg. So making those circles with the hip. Don't have to be perfect circles, complete circles. Again, try and release tension. Effort, yes. Support, yes. Tension, preferably not. Before stepping left foot to the top of your mat. Again, you're settling into that lunge. Arms high, tricep stretch on the right side. So bending the right elbow, catching hold of it with the left. Again, just been a negotiation with the hips, the pelvis. That might be a continuing conversation as you then lift up and over to the left side. So as you add that side bend, keep having that conversation with the hips and the pelvis. That might also include the abdominals and the low back, depending on what you're feeling. Or again, releasing the hands, sweeping the left leg back, three-legged dog. And you're going to move into those hip circles on the left side. So bending both knees, raising right heel, and moving left leg. So by bending the right knee, that's your supporting leg, and lifting the heel, we're asking the musculature of that right leg to be a little bit more involved with what's happening instead of just kind of locking out and hanging out in that kind of straight leg. Once again, putting the left foot down, a waving vinyasa. If you feel strongly against that this morning, no problem. Take a regular vinyasa or whatever else you want to fill that gap. Okay, working that articulation of the spine. Giving yourself time to feel it if possible. This time, once you're back in your downward facing dog, you're going to lift your right leg, step it towards the top of your mat. And then you're going to drop your back heel in and down. So you've got that kind of traditional warrior one stance of the legs. Make sure you make any adjustments that you might know you need. So for me, that's stepping my left foot out quite a lot wider and maybe making my stance a little bit shorter. From here, interlacing the hands behind the back, roll the shoulders back, send the chest, the heart forwards as you breathe in, and then as you exhale, releasing a little bit deeper into that humble warrior, relaxing the back of the neck. Maybe there's a little bit of repositioning with the feet. Again, it's inviting this conversation with your body. So instead of just, right, this is the pose, this is where I am, this is where I'm going to stay, what are the sensations that you're experiencing? Tuning into each part of your body or the key parts, that might be the feet or the hips, or the shoulders, funnily enough. Releasing the hands, you're going to rise up into a warrior two. So again, that might take some adjustment of the feet when you get there, maybe realigning, moving a little bit more towards that kind of single track, front right heel, sort of intersecting the arch of the left foot if that works for you. From here into a reverse warrior, so turning front palm upwards, lifting up, reaching back, spare left hand wherever you want it. Bear in mind that in terms of that top arm, if it's a little bit softer, that's going to just give you a bit more release, a bit more ease through the right side. If you really are kind of activating, reaching a long right arm, that might give you a little bit more stretch to the right side. Make sure back left leg is strong. Awesome. Rising back up through your warrior two. Use an in-breath to straighten your right leg. And an out-breath to rebend, moving you into side angle. Any variation you like, whether it involves a bind, a half bind. Particularly with those bind variations, working to roll that left shoulder back. And as much as that right leg is strong, see if you can still maybe just soften the hips a little more or release the weight of the pelvis. Awesome. Before rising back up through that warrior two, straighten your right leg. You're going to turn your right toes in 45, 90 degrees. You're moving into horse stance or goddess pose. So finding your wide squat, make the adjustments that you need before you settle in. Let's take arms up to the ceiling, turn the palms forwards, and then into cactus arms. Try and make sure that as you pull the elbows wide, it's not accompanied by a lifting or a pushing forwards of the chest. Where does your attention go? Is it a helpful place for it to be? Might not necessarily mean getting deeper, but can you release into the pose? Can you feel a tendency or a want to sort of tighten and always lift yourself out of it? Can you soften in? But let's straighten both legs, relax the arms. You're going to work yourself into a warrior two, facing the back of the mat. So left toes to the short edge, right toes more to the long edge. Once you feel comfortable, settled in your warrior two, you're going to take a breath in. And as you breathe out, moving into a side angle on that left side. So we're going to take that same flow that we just took on the right, but in a reverse order, if that's helpful or interesting to know. So with your side angle, if you're working a bind or a half bind, right shoulder back, maybe just talking to the hips and the pelvis. what happens if you bring them a little bit further forwards, or let them release a little bit to a more natural position maybe. You're releasing back up into your warrior two. Use an inhale to straighten your left leg. And exhale to bend your left leg, turn the front palm up, reverse warrior. Again, think about what's happening with that top arm. Use it as part of your kind of, as a tool, if you like, to adjust your effort levels or adjust the intensity. Back right leg, strong and firm. Not necessarily completely straight, but supportive enough that your knee feels protected and that back right hip feels comfortable. So as you rise back out of that reverse warrior, we're going to have to make a few little adjustments once again because we're moving into humble warrior. So interlacing the hands behind you, maybe that would have been better done after you've adjusted the feet. So a little bit more space so we can turn the pelvis, the chest slightly more towards the new top of our mat. And when you're ready, shoulders back, exhaling perhaps to help that release, that fold into your humble warrior. Thinking left side of the rib cage, nestling on the inside of the left thigh, seeing if the hips can maybe come down a little bit lower, if you can relax the back of the neck. Get those arms come over a little bit higher. So when you're ready, releasing the hands towards the top of your mat, come onto the ball of the right foot, taking the left leg back, three-legged dog. From that three-legged dog, stepping the left foot forward once again, rising up into a high lunge. So left arm is going to come on top for eagle arms. Find a moment to get your focus, to find a little bit of stability before you come to balance on your left leg, moving into eagle pose. Now I'm going to give you two options as you find that eagle pose. Option number one, traditional wrap of the arms and wrap of the left leg. Sorry, wrap of the right leg, my mistake. Make sure you are bending your standing knee, moving the hips back. Option number two is to release slightly the hands, separate the elbows, but then still try and actively squeeze elbows towards each other and backs of forearms in together. Similarly, hover right leg, but still try and cross right thigh over and right foot towards midline or even back towards right side. So you're in an active variation. Let's release out of whatever you're in. Just keep standing on the left leg. Give the arms and the right leg a little bit of a shake. Then take two hands to your hips. And you're going to lift your right leg up in front of you. I prefer to bend my right knee first and then extend the right foot away. You're welcome to lift the legs straight up. Drawing the belly in, strong through the standing leg. Keep breathing. And then stepping the right foot towards the back of your mat. So long lunge, bend the front left knee, turning all the way towards the front of your mat. Finding your high lunge, this time right elbow on top, eagle arms. Take a moment to steady yourself before you shift to the top of your mat to find your eagle pose. And again, you can keep it traditional, wrapping arms, wrapping legs. Or you can start to make it a little more active, reducing the contact between the arms and the legs, but keep that action of squeezing, still trying to wrap or cross the midline. Standing leg is firm, standing leg is deeply bent. Maybe the elbows can lift a little higher. releasing from wherever you are. Keep balancing on the right leg as you shake arms, shake left leg. Before you bring hands to your hips, sending the left leg out in front of you. Try not to lean the chest back, drawing the abdominals in. Awesome, let's release down from that. Coming to stand at the top of your mat, we're going to take a little standing back bend. So you're welcome to bring the hands to the low back. If it's feeling really good, of course, hands to prayer. Maybe the arms alongside the ears. Choice is yours. So I like to start personally with my feet about hip distance apart. I like to start by bending my knees and scooping the pelvis forwards. From there, rolling the shoulders back and continuing to sort of make little adjustments as I then start to push down through the feet, straighten the legs, finding perhaps a little bit more length through the abdominals as I work my way back. Placement of the head, I think, is personal preference. What feels comfortable for your neck? You might quite like the sense of allowing the head to drop back. You might prefer to keep the spine a little more neutral. Before releasing all the way back up, take a moment to let yourself kind of settle. It always makes me think of sort of like a rainmaker that's been tipped one way, and as you stand back up again, you sort of feel that settling of the grains inside that pouring, releasing down. That's what's happening in my body, apparently. When you're ready, you're going to make your way down to the floor to your 90-90 position. So you're going to have your right leg in front, 90-90 your stand. We don't need to be too, this time, we don't need to be too strict about the degrees of bend, if you like. But finding your stag position, option is to have fingertips to temples or hands to back of the head and the elbows wide. Just start by seeing if you can gently encourage the right knee down toward the floor. Then you're going to just slightly lean over to the right so you can lift that back left leg, bring it around to the front, and set it down. Obviously, if you've got space, you might be able to set the left heel on top of the right knee. Otherwise, you're going to end up in quite an open cross-legged position. Then again, pick up the left leg and take it back around behind you. Once you've set it down, have a moment to find that position to lift up, to bring right knee to the floor. If you need to have the hands on the floor to help you, please do that. Same thing again, lifting the back leg, trying to keep the spine long, the right knee down, bringing that leg around the front, oh Lord, and then again lifting up and taking it back. And this time, the third time, we're going to pause in our fire log pose. So as that left leg, back leg comes around to the front, I'm going to need to use my hands to help set my left heel on top of my right knee. Now, if I keep my right foot far away from me, then it's going to be much more challenging for me personally. So I'm going to shuffle my right heel closer in towards my bum. So you can play around with that to help you as you see fit. The first of our deeper hip openers. Trying to soften the jaw, the shoulders, the hips. You're welcome to stay here as you are, or to transition it into cow face pose. The way that I like to do that is to cross that top leg over a little bit more, then lean, sort of roll forwards so that I can slide the legs into a slightly tighter cross position, and then sit myself back. If your strap is to hand, if you want to add cow face arms, I'm going to go right arm on top, left arm beneath. Generally speaking, I find it a bit much to do the arms and the shoulders together. So if you're doing both, great. If you want to add a forward fold. If, like me, it's a bit too much, I'm going to give you an option to switch. So maybe starting with the legs now. So I'm working to release the hips. Or maybe starting from somewhere that feels a little less important, starting from the jaw, release the jaw, release the shoulders, soften the chest, then soften the hips. If you want to now try the arms, you might find that if you've settled into the legs, you're able to add the arms as they are, or in this position. Otherwise, you're going to unwind the legs and just find a comfortable position so you can then focus on the arms. With or without your strap. Sometimes the challenge of discomfort is to kind of lean into it or work into it a little bit more. Sometimes that is the challenge if we just want to kind of shy away. But similarly, sometimes what can be harder is to acknowledge for ourselves what is too much or what is enough for us personally. You're giving yourself that permission to go, do you know what? That is a bit much for me, so I'm just not going to do that. Giving yourself that permission. From wherever you are, taking your time to release. You might just want to take a little moment of stillness somewhere, doesn't matter. You might want to kind of hug yourself a little bit. Give yourself a second before we move into that second side. So you'll be in your stag position or your 90 degree legs with the left leg in front. And again, option is to have fingertips wide. Start by setting yourself up and trying to just gently press or draw the left knee down towards the floor. Or then lifting that lifting the right leg, the legs at the back, bringing it around in front of you, finding whatever is accessible before taking the right leg back again. And settling into that position before you go again. All the way around in front, nice you guys. And all the way back to where you came from, and then this third time is when you're going to find your fire log position. So working to stack, right ankle, right foot on top of left knee. Again, placing your hands wherever feels the most useful for you, maybe the most comforting. Or maybe there's a particular mudra, a placement of the hands, a hand gesture that helps you to focus. Maybe by touching the thumbs, the heart center, you might like to have one finger on the center of the forehead, that third eye for focus and intuition, one hand on the heart maybe. Again, releasing where possible, down into the pose. And then again, when you're ready, up and just switch into your cow face. So we're working to have both knees, in your cow face pose, working to have both knees pointing forwards. And we're trying to encourage the top knee to soften down. Instead of pointing up to the ceiling, the idea being it's going to gradually point directly forwards. So if you're adding in the arms as well, left arm is going to be on top this time. Yeah, maybe you start by softening the jaw and the shoulders. Maybe then the hips. Maybe also trying to soften and release the quads, the hamstrings, and muscles of the legs. Again, if this pose is going to be a two-parter for you on this side, if you'd like to unwrap the legs to give you a little bit of space to get into the arms. Now is your time, left arm on top, with or without your strap. When you're ready, releasing completely and taking all the time that you need to transition out of it. Take a little moment. Before, when you're ready, making your way to lie onto your tummy. So you're going to lie onto your belly, take the right hand or the right arm straight out to the side from the shoulder. So make sure you have a little look, it's not up by your ear or down by your waist, straight out to 90 degrees. So right arm is out, left elbow is bent, left hand placed alongside the chest. You're going to bend your left knee and then pushing with the left hand to help you roll over onto the right hand side, onto your right hand side. Maybe you're planting the left foot down. If you want to add a bit more twist, you can always bend your right knee as well and plant right foot down. If you want a bit more for the shoulders, maybe the left arm is going to reach up and back. If having two knees bent feels a bit too much, another way you can maybe add a little something to the pose with just the left knee bent is to think of lengthening your right leg away from you, so towards the back of your mat, and trying to open up just slightly the left leg, left knee, and sort of just gently squeezing it back. Right, and releasing, taking your time to switch sides. Left arm straight out from the shoulder. Again, check it, make sure it's not too high or too low. Bending the right knee. And then pushing, so you're rolled onto your left side. And again, you could bend both knees, you could work on lengthening the left leg and just trying to encourage the right knee back. You could add a bit more by reaching the right arm around. If you want to try and catch your left fingertips. Before releasing back onto your bellies. Making a little pillow or bringing the arms around in front of you to maybe rest your forehead or your chin on. From here, you're going to bend your right knee, flex the foot, and just squeeze the right heel up towards the ceiling. So you're just engaging through the glutes. Maybe taking a few kind of squeezy pulses up to the ceiling. Before doing the same with the left, so relax the right leg, bend the left knee, flex the foot, and you're trying to squeeze the heel up into the air, trying to encourage the thigh to lift away from the mat. Yeah, releasing back down. Option is for a locust pose or for a bow pose. If you want to go for that bow pose, bending the knees, reaching back, catching the ankles, so you've got that contact, that bind between hands and feet to help you kind of pull against, move against to get you a little bit deeper into your back bend. Or if you're going for your locust, no arms, no hands, no feet, no legs on the floor, no bind, working a little bit more that back body strength, whatever you prefer. One is not better or worse than the other. Personal preference, and personal preference with this particular practice as well. When you're ready, releasing, shuffling yourself around onto your back and taking any last little bits that you might want to get comfortable. So maybe your first thing once you get into your back is just to pause, to pay attention to your body, to notice the sensations that you're feeling. Maybe that's what's going to guide you. Maybe there is a particular something that you know you want to work on that is a continued focus on your practice. So maybe you're going to work on or with that. But ultimately, Shavasana is where we're going. And if you just want to get there, then of course, as always, that's totally fine. If you're still moving, still doing, just give yourself maybe another 4 or 5 breaths, another 30 seconds or so, to sort of wrap that up. When you do get to that Shavasana, trying to release the weight of your body. Committing yourself to some stillness. And trying not to let your mind, your thoughts, fill that space. When you're ready, just starting to bring yourself back to your breath, to your body, to the space around you. Taking your time to do so. Taking your time to gradually make your way to a comfortable seat to close your practice. See if you can release, surrender into your seat one more time. Taking a moment to reflect on perhaps where you notice discomfort or challenge in your practice. And are you able to be aware, or were you aware at the time of how you initially reacted and how you chose to respond to that discomfort, to that challenge? And is there anything outside of your practice which you know is bringing you a little bit of discomfort, that is challenging you in some way? Are you aware of your kind of emotional, unconscious, if you like, reaction to it? And is there any space for you perhaps to find a more conscious and more considered response? Not always that simple, but perhaps always worth just asking the question. But thank you very much, you guys. It's a pleasure to see you all as always. I hope you have a lovely weekend, a lovely week. And I'll see you next Saturday. And there will be a small cat, hopefully.
Thank you. See you soon.
See you again. Have a lovely week.
Thank you.
Bye, guys.
Love, love. Bye. Bye. Bye.
Bye.